Hi everyone, welcome to Things Lucy Reads. I'm Luce and this is my June TBR. There are 2 readathons happening this month, which obviously I'm going to join because they are queer themed, as it is Pride Month in the US. I've probably overestimated how much I'm actually going to be able to get through with my workload being as hectic as it is, but we're gonna try, and that's all that matters. So the first week of June is free of readathons, so I will be taking the time to finish off some books that I'm currently reading if I haven't finished them either tonight or tomorrow, which to be honest I probably will. And then of course the first readathon in June is the Queer Lit Readathon round 9, which is running from the 6th to the 13th. The hosts are Kathy and Rogan as always, and the guest host this round is Beck from Mooney Reads by Starlight, I think is their channel name. I will link them all down below, as well as the Twitter and the Instagram accounts. As always, there is a bingo board. I am aiming for a blackout, but it has resulted in a quite large TBR, so I don't know how well I'm going to manage it, but we're going to attempt it, and that's all that matters. Hang on, let me get my phone. So, the first book on my TBR is Comfort Food by Ellen Van Neerven, which is a poetry collection. This is going to cover me for the prompt Indigenous Rep. On the board it says Indigenous main character, but that has been expanded to include all kinds of rep, so a poetry book by an Indigenous author counts, so I'm good. So for Indigenous rep, and it also counts for the choose your own prompt, for which I've gone with Australian, and it covers me for poetry obviously, and that's all for that one. The next book on my TBR is Nimona, which is one of the group books because the other group book is a non-fiction book and quite a heavy read, so they've put this on as well as an option if you don't want to read something as heavy as the other one. And I don't have access to the other book, so I'm going with this one. I have read it already, but I really enjoyed it, and so this will be my 3rd time round, and I've been meaning to revisit this anyway, so it worked out really well. So this will cover me for group read and also for graphic novel. And then the next book on my TBR is She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan, and this is going to cover me for the prompts queer sports, and then also a new to you author, but the next 3 books on my TBR also count for that prompt, so it just depends on which one I get through first. Next book is A Christmas Paranda by, there we go, by Andrea Beatriz Arango. This is no longer available on Kindle, and I don't know why. I went to look it up to see what the page count was, and the page wasn't there, and if you search for it, it's not there, so I don't know what happened. But this will cover me for new to you author if I read it first. It will also cover me for retelling because it's a retelling of A Christmas Carol, and it's also going to cover me for seasonal vibes. It's fucking winter here at the hella cold, so it's not Christmas, but the season's right. So one of the prompts is romance, and if I read it first, it will also cover me for a new to you author, and that is A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. I will be ordering a paper copy, but for some reason in Australia this book doesn't come out in physical copy until tomorrow, so I can't order it yet. I mean, I could pre-order it, but I don't trust anyone with pre-ordering these days. So as soon as it comes into stock somewhere, I will be ordering it. If it hasn't arrived by the time the readathon starts, then I will just buy the Kindle copy and I will read it anyway. And then if I don't finish it during this readathon, I'm gonna read it last, so it's a possibility I will be reading it for the next readathon, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then the next book is Defect by Nino Chipri, or Cipri. I should look up how to pronounce that name. That's the cover. This is the sequel to Finna, which I read last year and I thoroughly enjoyed. This covers me for neurodivergent main character, Ace or Arrow main character, and also science fantasy. And shout out to my friend Echo for coming in clutch when I said on Instagram I need a book that's queer, that's not too long, that fits all of these 3 prompts, and they were like, this one, and I was like, thank you. Perfect. And then the last book on my TBR for the Queer Lit Readathon is The Secret Diaries of Miss Anne Lister, which was edited by Helena Whitbread. Anne Lister is the real person who is the main character of the show Gentleman Jack. She was a lesbian, she liked to dress in men's clothes, she was unconventional for a woman of her time. This was a birthday present from my good friend Jess many years ago, way before the show Gentleman Jack was even a thing. I still have not read it, but it fits a lot of prompts for this readathon, so it seemed like a good time. This is going to cover me for non-fiction, messy queers, because by all accounts Anne Lister was not a very easy to get on with / nice person, but I'll find out more about that when I read her diaries. It will also cover me for queer history and a new to you author, if I finish reading this first. And oh, that's it apparently. But yes, it is quite long, but it's her diary, so some of the entries are really short and hopefully I will get through it quite quickly. I haven't watched Gentleman Jack because it's not on any streaming services that I actually have. If I really like this, maybe I'll check it out. Anyway, so that's my TBR for the Queer Lit Readathon. And then there is a day to recover, and then the Queer Romance Readathon starts. The Queer Romance Readathon also has a group book, and that is Drag Me Up by R.M. Virtues. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling where Hades is demisexual, I believe, and then Persephone is trans. Reading this singular book is going to cover a whole lot of the prompts of the bingo board for this readathon. If you just read this book, then you will get a bingo for this readathon, which I think is an inspired choice on behalf of the moderators for this readathon. I can't remember who all the hosts are, but I will link them all down below. Found out about this readathon because of Adri's announcement video, and they just made it sound really good. And as soon as they said that this was the group book, I was all in, because I have been meaning to read this for like 8 months now. It's been sitting on my nightstand forever, and I never actually get around to reading it. So hopefully during this readathon, I will. So we'll cover Latinx author, indie author, because that is independently published obviously, new to you author, Indigenous author, group book, disabled rep or author, black author, trans author, bisexual rep or author, queer black love, asexual rep or author, and erotic romance, which leaves me with 11 more prompts plus the free square. So I am thinking, if I have time during that readathon, that I will also pick up Anything But Fine by Tobias Madden and One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I put up a poll on my Instagram saying which of these should I read next, and One Last Stop was the runaway winner. But if I can, I'm going to read both of them during that readathon, as well as finish off A Lady for a Duke if I hadn't finished it in the previous week. If I do read A Lady for a Duke for this readathon, that will cover me for historical romance and 2022 release. If I read this one, it will cover me for book by a gay author and also YA romance. If I read this one, it will cover me for FF romance, and I think that's it. And then apart from those readathons, the books I'm hoping to read are Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers, which nearly made it onto my Queer Lit Read TBR, but just missed the bill because Defect was recommended to me and that was a better fit. This has been making the rounds. It sounds really interesting. It seems to be an even split between people who really love it and really relate to it, and those who just think it's fine. So I think I'm going to really relate to it, but we'll see how I go when I actually read it. And then the Hex Libris Book Club book for May and June is The Membranes by Chi Ta Wei. I didn't get to it in May. Hopefully I'll be able to get to it in June. It's quite short. Echo recently finished it, absolutely adored it, so hopefully I will as well. And then the word for the Buzzwordathon for June is all. So the book I will be attempting to read for that is I Wish You All the Best by Mason Diva, which I've had ever since it was released and I have not yet read. But the November-December book for the Hex Libris Book Club is the accompanying novella that goes with this book, so I have to read this before I can read that. And I must read that because I am at heart a completionist. I know it probably doesn't seem like I am, but I really am, and I have to read this so that I can read the November-December book, and that's just how it works. And I don't think I'm gonna make it through even half of these, but the point is I'm going to try, and no matter how many of them I get through, it's going to be hella queer. And I have just noticed for this entire video I've had my AirPods in. Nothing's even playing, they were just in my ears, so that's how my day is going. I'm going to leave you with a final note. You may or may not already know this, but YouTube tends to hide comments that have the word queer in them. No matter what I set my comment settings to, even if I tell it to allow all comments and to sort them by newest first, it still hides shit from me. So if you're going to comment on this video and you want to use the word queer, I ask that instead you use the rainbow flag emoji, or just the rainbow emoji, or just the letter Q. Because if you would use the word queer and YouTube hides the comment, I will get an email about it. So I'll still be able to read what you wrote, but I will not be able to see it physically on the video. It won't come up in my YouTube notifications, so I won't actually be able to reply because your comment will be hidden. And nothing I can do will unhide it. So please keep that in mind when commenting. Avoid using the word queer where you can. If talking about these readathons, please use the abbreviations I've used in the title of this video. So QLR for Queer Lit Read, and also QRR for Queer Romance Readathon. It's shitty and I hate it, but there's not much that we can do about it. We just have to work around it in whatever way we can. And unfortunately, that means not using the word. So just use an emoji or use the letter Q and I'll know what you mean. And then I'll be able to actually reply to your comment and YouTube won't just yeet it into the void, which it so loves doing. So with that in mind, if you have read any of these books and you would like to share with me what you thought, please feel free to do that. If you just want to let me know that you were here, drop me the rainbow flag emoji in the comments. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in my next one. Bye everyone.